Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another soft spoken Wednesday. Today, we're going to cover a case that not only was requested, but that I was interested in learning more about after reading a short article. Before I start with today's case, I want to say welcome to those new to the channel and welcome back to the rest that choose to come back every week to learn or remind you if you already know about the case and share with me your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you'd like to support my channel, I would love for you to leave a comment, an emoji, deep thoughts, or just a hello to help with the algorithm. I also have a Patreon where I started this week a series, so I hope you check it out. The link is down below. Now, we're gonna do a different style today. We're gonna start from the end. Kind of in an area that I don't typically record, so I hope that this is still as relaxing with a few nature background. There's a bird that is kind of having a conversation or something. As I was saying, we're gonna start from the end to make sense out of this case. Located northeast of Houston, it's the city of Katy. It is a relative small city with a population of 16,158. Now, it happened there in the year 2016 when a dispatcher, 911 dispatcher, received a call. It is not uncommon that people don't start talking immediately, and what is said or what's being recorded tells a lot about what the emergency is about. She could hear people talking in the background. One of those was a female saying, "Please forgive me. Please don't shoot." Then a man begging, "Please don't point that gun at her. Then a gunshot, and this female yelling, "I'm shot." The dispatcher who's been listening started to try to engage with somebody and said, "Hello, what's the address?" And then the call got disconnected. The call came from the home of Jason and Christy Sheats. Christy was 42 years old and was born in Alabama. Jason was 2. They were described as childhood sweethearts that eventually moved to Katy, Texas. They had 2 daughters, 17-year-old Madison and 22-year-old Taylor. Jason worked for Oxy, which is a Houston-based oil company. He was an IT for the company. Recently, in the previous years, they started to have marital problems, and Jason was ready to get a divorce. The day when the 911 call was made, it was Jason's 45th birthday. Christy called a family meeting around 5 p.m. and for whatever reason, I don't know if they thought she was trying to be cruel, but they expected her to talk about their divorce. So they gather around the dining table, and then Christy pulled out a revolver. She'd been hiding it under the table and decided to pull it out and point it at Taylor. Taylor, being the 22-year-old daughter. When she shot her own child, or daughter, because it was an adult, Taylor was trying to run away from the table, so she shot her in the back. Christy then turned to Madison and shot her in the neck. Jason ran and hid behind the living room couch. and then left through the front doors with his daughter. The girls were able to walk, but when they reached the front of the yard, they collapsed. If this wasn't bad enough, Christy started running toward Taylor, who was lying on the street, while a neighbor offered Jason shelter in her home. The police arrived in time to see all this. They hid behind trees and parked cars, and they witnessed Christy kneeling over Taylor's body, ready to shoot her a second time. That is when they order her to drop the gun, and they shot her when she refused. A helicopter took Taylor to a hospital, but she died on arrival. Madison and Christie's lifeless bodies lay on the street in front of their own home. The gun used to do all this was a gift from Christie's grandfather. Apparently, Christie was very deeply impacted when her grandfather died in the year 2012. 2 months later, her grandmother died, and Jason, telling this to the police, also shared that she's been suffering from depression since then. To make things worse, she was a heavy drinker. She was admitted to a mental health hospital for suicide attempts 3 times over a 4-year period. He also shared that Christy took a lot of pills. They were all prescribed, and she was also seeing a therapist. A neighbor testified that they had separated, but that recently they got back together. If you're wondering, Christy had no history of violence towards others. Just so you understand how much she was affected by her loss. Christy struggled so much that she stopped working after the death of her grandfather. she'd been a hairstylist for years, and at the time was an executive assistant to the vice president of a transportation company. She was also a receptionist at Clean Canvas Tattoo Removal. She was eventually fired from there. Even the owner of that place said he thought she'd be the perfect fit for the job because she was very pleasant when she wanted to be. He also said that the times when she wasn't pleasant were the times when he assumed that whatever was going on at home was affecting her. There's also this period of time when Christy is living in an apartment away from her family. Sometimes she'd say that she was separated from her husband. Other times she said that she was going to divorce him. Some other times she'd say that she wanted to work things out. Almost like somebody who was confused. That was on the work side. But her friends on social media would say that she was very active and that she loved her daughters so much that they couldn't understand how this was possible. What could cause a person to snap? It's almost like she had different faces for different parts of her life. It seemed like she put up a front of trying to be the best mom, and her mission in life for her two daughters. One of her friends even mentioned that the year before, for Daughter's Day, Christy posted the following message to her Facebook account. Quote, "Happy Daughter's Day to my two amazing, sweet, kind, beautiful, intelligent girls. I love and treasure you both more than you could ever possibly know." 3 years before the shooting, Taylor posted the following on Facebook. On Mother's Day, quote, "Mom, you are so selfless, as you always put our whole family before yourself and never ask for anything in return. You're so kind and loving. And as you always remind us of just how much you care and how proud you are of everything we do. You're so intelligent and fun to be around because I feel I can talk to you forever now about anything. You're one of the strongest people I know, if not the strongest. And you have had to overcome so much in your life. But you still manage to love us and put your everything into being a mom. You're such a blessing to have as a mother and friend, and I truly appreciate you and all that you do. Happy Mother's Day to my amazing mommy, and I love you. I have to say that I decided to share this just as a reminder that things can drastically change. All these nice things that her daughter is saying in this post on Facebook can truly reflect her heart and how she truly felt about your mom or her mom. I think it's typical to post something for Mother's Day, even if you don't have her here with you today. But when people go out of their way to be specific, thankful, and praise somebody, really goes deeper. And in this case, it broke my heart to read the amazing person that Christy was to these girls and how things ended for this family. And I'm going to share this other post from 2 years before the shooting. And there is a point to all this, which, by the way, was part of the investigation. Christy, 2 years before the shooting, posted on Facebook, quote, "I am truly a Southern gal. I was born in Alabama, but have been living here in Texas for 15 years. I have 2 amazing daughters I simply adore. They are my everything. I thank God for every breath He allows me to take." Her neighbors describe her as a cheerful person, never seemed sad or depressed. You never would, learn anything bad about them. people were just in disbelief that she could do something like this. They truly believed she was insane. Christy was Baptist, very conservative, and she supported the Second Amendment, which, if you're not from the States, provides the right for gun ownership. So now that you know about who Christy was, let's go back to the day of the killing. Christy and Jason actually had gotten into an argument over Taylor. Taylor had a fiancé, Juan Sebastian Lugo. They'd been seeing each other since the year 2011, and he had given her a promise ring in 2013. Christy didn't like Juan and wanted to prevent Taylor from seeing him. Jason agreed on grounding Taylor, but I assume it's for something different, but he understood that he couldn't forbid her from seeing Juan. Now, the punishment kind of came on the worst day possible. Jason even told Christy, quote, "This would be the last birthday you're going to ruin." Now, there was a family friend who later gave an interview that said that he'd had this conversation with Jason the morning of the shooting. According to Davey, it's the last name of the person who gave the interview, Jason said he had told Christy, quote, "Just shoot yourself. Make it easy on all of us. Just shoot yourself." And that she replied, quote, "Nope, that's not what this is about. This is about punishing you." Davey said to the reporter that he knew that this was a bad sign, that something would eventually happen, that Christy was very toxic and mentally unstable. But he would have never guessed that this was going to be the end. In the end, Police believe that Christy shot their daughters because that would cause kind of the worst pain for Jason. And if she just wanted to get rid of Jason, she would have started with him. But Jason was a good, loving father to his girls. Killing them and letting him live would create the greatest suffering for him. And that's what happened in the end. He was left alone. I think this case paints a picture of mental health and how it changes from day to day. Just because you'd been doing great in the last 10 years doesn't mean that you have to do great today. We're always changing, we're growing, we're getting older. And with that, we can't stay the same person we were not even a month ago, let alone the last 10 years with a mental illness. What I'm trying to say is, I am sure that Christy loved her kids, but something in her snapped that day. With a lot of anger and resentment with her husband. And I believe a lot of some kind of unbalance in her head. She chose to cause pain in the most unthinkable way. I also want to say that I wasn't there to witness the relationship and what Jason told her that day about shooting herself was incredibly hurtful, mean, something a bully would say, and not a husband that even if he stopped loving her, that's the mother of his children. How can you wish that? I also know that when people are angry, we say things we don't mean. I hope he didn't mean that. Sadly, he is going to be the one who is going to have to live with that, with what he said to her. I think this is the ultimate punishment. Such a horrible ending for a family that doing fine. And even though they were struggling in their relationship, I think we all do at one point or another. If you've been married long enough, you'd probably know that there are some bad times in every relationship. In this case, I think getting a divorce would have been a better idea. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Let me know what you think about this case, and I'll talk to you guys on Friday.